Happy Tuesday, everybody. Hey, what do you know? It's November. Jeez. When's our anniversary coming up? We've got an anniversary somewhere around here. I didn't get you anything.
Really? We got an anniversary? The show's anniversary?
Yeah, I think we started this show about November last year. I think so.
Really? I didn't know.
Yeah, I could look it up, but I won't. Rodney, how are you? Did you have a good weekend first? My name is Andy Elliott. I'm a real estate agent, realtor here in Williamson County, Tennessee. This is my best friend, Rodney Wilds. He's a lender, loan officer. He's one of those guys. He has the money with First Trust here also in Williamson County. The reason for our show is just to share information with you. If you have questions, concerns, you can call, text, or email. All that information is in the comment section below. What'd you do this weekend?
I actually, pretty amazing, went to Little Rock, Arkansas for our company's 20th year anniversary.
Oh, really?
So that's pretty cool, yeah. First Trust Home Loans started 20 years ago out of Sheridan, Arkansas, and still going strong. So went down there, had a little celebration, and just had a nice leisurely drive back and enjoyed the weekend.
Is that close to your cabin down there by any chance?
No, Little Rock is a little bit of ways from our duck hunting cabin.
Oh, okay. All right. Well,
probably about 3 hours or something like that.
Oh, well, that's not so bad. I mean, that's travel time from Hendersonville to Spring Hill.
It is. It is.
You can make it to the cabin. So, okay, I'm kind of split. You can tell I'm thinking, which is generally a problem. There has been a lot going on with rates, and I know we swore off rates here a couple of weeks ago because it was just ugly, right? That's just what it was.
Yeah.
But as soon as we say that, I mean, they're floating around, dancing around 8% for a while. All of a sudden, blammo, they went a different direction. So I'm gonna show it. I'm gonna let you take over here.
All right. Yeah. All right. Thanks for sharing the screen here. Let's look at, let me pull this in view here. You can see, well, sorry about that. Let me get back to that. We're going to do a 6-month look at our rates. And here we go. Look back here in May. We were May of 23, floating, the 102.5 mark up here, 102.85. Basically, it's gone down. Rates have gotten worse. You can see how it's trailed off since May, all the way through. We may have hit some kind of bottom around here in late October.
Can I interject?
Yes.
For anybody that it just happens to be tuning in and never seen our show before and hasn't seen this graph, everything is reversed. If it goes down, rates go up. Those little locks are when a lender, if you're thinking about buying a house, they'll say it's probably best if you lock at this juncture, right?
Yes, the locks are alerts each day that the day you see them on. Like this was an lock alert at 2:32 p.m. on September 5th, and then as you can see, they just alert you when they know it's going to go down that day, or the rates are going to get worse.
Okay.
But, since October around this time, it looks like we've maybe bounced off this bottom here and really have come up and gained some good ground from, this is 98.6 all the way up to, so it's a little over 2 points that we've gained back over the last few days. So that's been a huge improvement, as you can see. But excited about that. Good news. We're like anytime rates are improved. So this is a very good trend right here, and like to see it. So
well, and the raw numbers and when anybody gives rates, that's a relative thing because it doesn't mean for everybody. It just I don't even know that's an average rate probably, right?
This is what, yes, this is what a mortgage backed security is selling for. Okay. And then how they tie it to an individual is what they have is loan level price adjustments, meaning
Right.
if you put 10% down or 20% down, that may help that rate a little bit. If you have a really great credit score, that may help that rate. Um, and the same with any kind of negative factors. If your credit score's low or something of that fact, or if you're buying a second home or investment properties, those loan level price adjustments on those would affect that base rate we're talking about right there.
You know, something I did the other night, and I haven't seen this in a long time. Have you ever seen The Big Short, the movie?
I haven't seen it. Believe it or not, I don't know what it is about that produce. Isn't it Michael Moore or something? Was he the one who produced that?
Oh no! Oh no! No!
He
No!
wasn't.
No! 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 Oh gosh, no! It's no. It was simply a story about the guy Michael Burry, who they say predicted the housing crash. I don't know if he did predict it or if it was just a constant coincidence, perhaps. But what they did explain was mortgage-backed securities and what Rodney was talking about right there. They really broke it down. It was well done. That when you're talking about different rates for different people, all that is a bank trying to take 1,000 individuals and rank their risk factor without actually knowing them. I mean, that's it.
That's it. Yeah, 100%.
And when you talk about these mortgage-backed securities, why it started getting weird is back in the day, they stopped paying attention. That's why there's ninja loans, right? No income, no job. Yeah, that stuff. Well, they don't do that anymore. But anyway, it was a great show to rewatch for me.
Yes. And they, the big change is because a lot of those loans are coming back, like they're called non-QM or bank statement loans and things like this. But the good thing about it is they're not allowed to be bundled up with these other mortgage-backed securities. The only qualified mortgages or what's called QM loans now go into these mortgage-backed securities because they're traded on the stock market, and they're like, hey, if these things are going to be out here sold as a stock, there's got to be a very good standard for which they get in this pool anyways, like for how they get into that bucket. So the people that don't get underwritten, the non-QM stuff, they're never going to get in that bucket.
Yeah, but it was really an interesting show, and it had been so long that, frankly, I knew how it ended, but
Yes.
I forgot the detail. So thank you for that, Rodney. I know it was exciting going from 8% flat out to what it is. It's the other day it was 7.36.
Yeah, it's close. It's close to that now, depending on your basically the LLPAs that are tied to you.
I mean, can you imagine the 0.7% in just a few days? I mean, that's 70 basis points. Jesus.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, it was actually over. Yeah, I mean, you could actually see it was a little over 200 basis points in those few days.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
God.
You go back down here to I can put my cursor on it. I don't know if you can see that, but you see the price at 98.45.
Yes.
And then if I go up here, something like the top of where it is, it's 100.68. So that's a little over 2 points.
Jesus, that's just. So, I would say that's a volatile market, but I just think it happens to be wrapped around Jerry singing his songs, and the job market. So one of the things that I would like to talk to you about today is something that, and the reason it feels timely to me is I've got, like any real estate agent, any realtor, I've got a lot of buyers out there that they're shopping, they're window shopping. They've been looking houses that for months and years. I mean, it's the rare deal when somebody calls up and go, hey, I want to buy a house this weekend. It does happen, but it's not all the time. And usually we build a relationship with those folks, and they're looking at houses all through the summer. They're calling and saying, what's the market doing? Because it's nuts. And you give advice, and having friends like Rodney, I send them to Rodney, see how they're doing, that kind of stuff. At any rate, the big question, and it's the same question every year coming into the holiday season, and I know Christmas, if anybody's offended with the Christmas stuff before Thanksgiving, sorry, not sorry, because the topic is about holiday housing, Christmas in particular. But every year they'll come in, and I had 3 of them call this week and go, there is nothing out there. They're looking for houses in a particular price range in a particular location, which is how I teach them, because otherwise, what are you doing? Looking all through Middle Tennessee. That's not window shopping. I don't know what that is, but that's crazy. But they'll call and they'll start freaking out because a lot of these folks, like one guy, he's got $1 million price point, but he's just not seeing what he wants, and it's kind of specific, got a certain type of house on it with a little bit of land and not too close to the city. So already he's got a lot of stuff kind of going against him there. But the inventory, but anyway, so they're freaking out. I'm never going to find a house. And for somebody that's looking I have people call from San Diego, and they're saying, we're starting to get worried because we're not seeing anything. And I told them this. When you're coming into the holidays, the first thing that happens is people that have listings start to let them expire. If it's going to expire the first week or 2 of November, they'll let it expire. They're not firing the agent. They're just like, we haven't got a contract yet. Let's just make it through Thanksgiving and Christmas, and we'll start again next year. That is so common. It's amazing. I mean, that's common. But to the buyer, it looks like there's just no houses for them anymore. Now, have you ever had experience with people talking to you about that, Rodney?
It's yes, and it's been it hasn't been it's been a while since it's been related to the holidays because inventory is so short. But inventory has been a I don't want crisis or whatever you want to say. It's been a difficult challenge for buyers for a minute now. So yes, I can't, honestly, Andy, I don't know. I can't blame people for pulling it off the market. I mean, I can't have, how would you have people trekking through your house on, 2 days before Thanksgiving? You know how stressful all that stuff is.
And more than likely, some of the people you're going to have come visit sold their house in 2 days, and you'll be wondering how they did it. How did you sell your house? What's that agent's name? Because that's who gets the blame. Sometimes rightfully so, but more often than not, I'm telling you, I won't go into the whole thing. I could, but if your house isn't selling and it's not getting showings and it's move-in ready, there's really only one problem. I'll leave that to you guys to guess what that is.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to be a show where they leave here without the knowledge. So I want to tell them it rhymes with it's priced too high. Right?
It is. And I tell you, I laugh only because it makes me a little uncomfortable, because it's not, if you're trying to sell your house and you have a certain expectation and that's not coming to fruition. I mean, it's Christmas and that can be tied to it. And you think I'm trying to be funny. I'm not. If you have your dollars tied to a certain sale price and it's not going to happen, and people start telling you it's not going to happen, that ain't funny. I get that.
Yeah,
I get that. So what I tell people to do is, the buyers in the market, just set up your search for what it is that you want. Be specific and just let it run. And if something comes through, you want to pay attention to that if something pops through. And the only time you'll get new notifications for listings when you're a buyer on auto notification is when the price has been lowered more than $1,000, or it's new to the it's new to a new listing. So those are really the two things. Now it can change status, getting too far off in the weeds, but the things you care about are lowered price and new listings. So you want to pay attention to that. But here's something I'm going to tell you. I don't know if it's a secret, but for well over a decade, and I'll be completely transparent, that has not been the case the last couple of years, and I don't see it happening this year. But over the decade or more, consistently, December has been one of the best volume producing months in terms of dollars. It's a surprising thing, and let me tell you why. I was probably in the business 3 or 4 years before I figured this out, because there's nobody teaching it. It's just that you finally figure it out after a minute. So let's say that you're in the week of Thanksgiving through the New Year's. And I mean, you're in that period of time. There's, just like when you're playing cards, there's people that will give signals, there's tells, there's motivations. And when you're selling during the holidays, that is a huge tell. Now, sellers are going to act, yeah, we're not in a hurry. No problem.
Yeah.
It's okay. It's all right. And then they cry themselves to sleep every night is what's happening. If a seller is listed and actively showing through the holidays, now they may block out Thanksgiving Day and Christmas Day, Christmas Eve. But if they're actively listed and selling through the holidays up to including New Year's, they need to sell. Period. Mm-hmm. They're motivated to sell. And it sounds terrible, like I'm poking at weak spots, but as a buyer's agent, that's my job. That's
right.
That's my job.
Yeah, I mean, you got to take advantage of the market. I mean, that's and that was one of the tips there is when making that deal work, being flexible with the timing of when you move in, when they move out.
Yep.
Would probably get a deal done as much as money at that time,
Absolutely. If you can push past all of the holidays and let all that stuff, the dust settle, if you can give somebody the opportunity, and I've seen this for years personally in my business, if you can give a seller a good contract before Christmas, they're just so relieved. I mean, and it's a good thing, but generally speaking, the buyer got themselves a good deal some way,
Yeah.
That's
and I think it could play in the fact, it could play reverse as well as if you have all your stuff pre-approved, if the buyer's ready to go and the buyer's because honestly, if you're still looking through the holidays, you've got to be ready to jump on something as well. So if you're prepared and you have got your pre-approval and you got your estimates done, all that, if you have, and you're able to take advantage of that, they may actually want you to close sooner as well. Like you could start out and say, well, could you put a contract in on December 1? They'd be like, well, we'll take it if you can close December 15th.
Absolutely.
And then your lender would be like, yeah, let's do it, and get it rolling.
Yep. And so the flip side of the coin is if you're a seller during the year, probably, tell me if I'm exaggerating, 90% of the people that are looking at your house during the course of the year, not including the holidays, looky-loos. They're just curious. They may be shopping for a house, but yours ain't it, But it's the next one in line. They come in and they go, the kitchen's too small, kitchen's too big. You're out. 90% are just lookers. 10% are the serious ones. when it gets into the holidays, the way I used to, people would ask me, how are you getting all these deals during the holidays? And the reason is you don't give up on people. You don't teach them, hey, wait till after the holidays, it'll be better. No. Right. This is what you teach folks, because it's good. It's like Rodney just said, both sides win. During the holiday season, as we described, the week of Thanksgiving through all of New Year, the hit rate on people touring a house and buying it skyrockets, because the buyers that are out there, they're not out there for their health, and they're not out traipsing around in the cold because they like it. They're out there because they need a house.
Right.
And the seller is allowing them to traipse through their house because they need to sell it. This is a meeting of the minds in the biggest way, and it's just a matter of, can we make this house work?
Yeah, I kind of put it to, like, if you're rolling in on a car dealership, a car lot or something, and it's raining or snowing, you're probably looking to buy a car that day. You're probably not looking to shop out in the rain. So it's kind of, if you're doing it during the holidays, there's a need.
There is a need. And so the things that my last couple of tips, because I've got great stories about, have I ever written a contract on a Christmas Eve? I have. Did I like it? I did not, but did it go through? It did. People pay attention because they don't want to be farting around with this all weekend. It's like 2 hours and it was done. Right. See you next week. Bye. But one of the things I want to mention is, if you're the buyer and you're serious because you're motivated to be out there in the cold, if it's a cold weather place, you got to get pre-approved. I know we've sung this song to death, but don't go out trying to make a contract, not getting pre-approved and wasting anybody's time. That sounds cruel, but don't do that.
Yeah, you're just not going to be prepared and get the best deal you can if you're financing. If you can't prove it, it's pretty much standard nowadays to provide the seller with a pre-approval letter from your lender saying you're ready to go and you've done your due diligence as good as you could on the front end.
And that's true. And I'm going to tell you that's true for people that are serious, but there's a lot of people, I call them fringies people, that they're just getting started. Mm-hmm. You got to work on them a little bit to help them understand. At least I do. Yeah.
They like got it says. It's hard. It's hard to, it's like hard for me to imagine going out and buying something if I don't know what my payment's going to be. It's, if I'm not paying cash for it. Right. So it's
but what they do is,
I'm like, but I guess I've known after 20 years, man, it's like, I don't want to go see my champagne taste and then I have to come back on, the Miller Lite budget, and that's me, I'm like, I can't show my wife that kitchen if I can't.
I asked, there was one guy that, and it's kind of one of my rules. And if it seems like I'm a little harsh, when I was new, I'd go out with anybody. If they were here, fog this mirror, let's go, I'll buy.
Right.
But as I went along, I found out that not every couple works out, that not every marriage is made in heaven. You don't work with everybody. And I make people, I really insist that people provide evidence that they're credit worthy. And it's not that I don't trust them. It's just that I don't trust them is really what it is.
It's too much to their benefit to overlook that. It's too much. It's too much. It's not the way transactions work.
It isn't. But there was this one guy that there's a story here. There was this one guy that insisted, Andy, I'm telling you, I'm good. And I kept saying, can you tell me how? And he goes, it's none of your business. I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah.
And, you get into that and it's like, I have to decide what I want to do, And anyway, I ended up saying, well, I just can't do it. I can't do it unless you tell me where you figured this out and why you're so confident about it. He said, I looked it up on bankrate.com.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's so easy to go to any website and get an assumptive number and think you're good to go. And that's what he thought, and I was like,
Right.
no, bye.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing about it, the piece to that is that you got to be provided a piece of paper that you can hand to the seller that says, has your has the lender contact information, that they've that you've looked at their basic information and things like that. So he may know he's okay, and people may be okay, but it doesn't matter.
100%.
It doesn't mean that the seller doesn't want it. I mean, you need to comply, I guess, as far as or not comply and see how good that goes. I mean, but
now this may go counter against our argument. Well, maybe not. It doesn't. I bet you probably 80 to 90% of the people say they're good to go really are good to go. They know their finances. They know what, if they're struggling, not paying, if they know. We still have to prove it.
right. You still have, plus the contract mentions you have to apply in a certain amount of time. You have to hit milestones as you move along with appraisals and approvals. And so it's just part of the process that you do it up front. And it's, it's best for the client to do it. It's best for the buyer to do it up front.
Anyway, so I don't know how we got off on that. Quite the tangent there. But the bottom line is, if you're a holiday buyer or a holiday seller, your hit rate, meaning the number of homes you need to see to actually consummate a contract, is really, really high. I mean, your percentage of your hit rate, success rate, is really good. So, and if you're in real estate, you happen to pass this by, where you normally show 10 houses to get a contract, in the holiday seasons, it's two. Because everybody's serious. It's like, that's good enough. Yeah. You show me a guy that has to move from Philadelphia by January, that's good enough.
Yeah.
Leads us to the next question. Thank you for playing on that, Rodney. I need to get a buzzer.
Bing.
I think I've got one. Wait. Stop hand gesture. Gee, we haven't used this in a while.
Yeah, that's creepy. That thing is just like super weird.
So the next thing I wanted to touch on is, with rates being where they are, that's not the argument. Median home prices about $429, $469, something like that. Depends, median across the country. I could look it up, tell you, but it's pretty close to that. The question I want to know is, how much do you need to earn to afford a house, a normal garden variety house in America today?
100, does it rhyme with 114,000, something like that?
I think it does. Median. Hang on. Should have had this pulled up, but I didn't. Look at this. Oh, yeah.
This is
interesting.
This is pretty amazing, actually. Just not the median house price. We all know that that's been skyrocketing, but for Americans to need to make $114,000 a year to afford the median sales price home, which is more than 50% up from 2020 levels.
That, as a requirement, that's almost intolerable just for my head.
Well, that's
like yesterday.
I guess. Yeah. So this is just weird. It's just crazy. It's like the government's. We've got a huge affordability problem in our area in America. The housing prices have went up. Fed is trying to control inflation, and they're trying to stabilize the housing market, meaning they don't want the prices skyrocketing. But however, to do that, they have jacked the interest rates up. which is the probably driving force of unaffordability right now.
First time buyers are getting hurt.
Again, yes.
I was going to be strong, but
yes, they are. Yeah, with very little inventory as we have, the that's keeping the America's prices constant or going up or very minimally going down. And then when you add in the rate issue for affordability, it's just this is what you get. You get a huge difference between what America makes and what America needs to make to afford a home. And it's another stat was it hit an all-time high of 2866 in August, which again is 20% higher than last year, just 20% higher than last year, and up 81% since 2020.
Imagine.
Yeah,
I mean, for anybody a few years ago, if you said you had to make $75,000, for some people they would like faint, but for most to be like, I can imagine doing that. I can do that. That's a doable in your head, 75. You talk to someone about, well, you got to have $115 to get the house that you can live in. I'm exaggerating. That's like, what?
Yeah, right. The median house, yeah, and so we got that, and then like we talked about the Federal Reserve policy, they have been skyrocketing our rates for a minute now. The average household, the property values have gone up due to the lack of supply.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, our affordability issues taking it, and again, like you said, the first time home buyers are hit. Why they hit the hardest? Because they have least amount of negotiating power. They're mostly affected by the rate. Getting into your first house.
Golly, yeah.
And then I did see this Chen Zhao, right? He's a lead economist research for Redfin, I think.
Right.
That I love this suggestion. Buyers should consider a condo or townhome, which are less expensive, and consider moving to a more affordable part of the country, or maybe not of the country, but maybe just further out from where you're at.
Yeah.
So it's not a bad
kind
suggestion.
of obvious.
It is, but people don't think like that. It's like, I tell people all the time, it's like, yeah, I mean, you might have to move out. I mean, like if you're not seeing anything in this area under $1 million and even if you want, it could be over. It's like, you got to look at the area where where your houses are at.
I guess that my response to that shows where we're a little bit different, because when I read that about him, it's like, duh.
Yeah.
Yeah. It basically says, parents says, go find a cheaper place. Got it.
Well, you're the expert about housing and where they're at. See, for me, I'm like, well, I want to live over here. It's not always known to me that I need to move out further, or suggestions where I could actually attain that.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, if you're able to do the math, just if you can, on a 10% loan for a $450,000 house, closing costs all in, and we're going to assume that $115. What is the buyer bringing to the table as real estate is sold today?
With 10% down.
Yep. And closing cost, all of it, all in.
And it's what was the sales price?
$450.
All right, so we're going 45,000 would be the down payment, and let's say, your title and insurance, appraisals, all that. Let's just say that's 10,000 and another 6,500. We'll just say 15,500. So about $60,500 would
And
be
that's
10% down plus all the fees.
And that's in the way my request was how real estate sold today.
Correct.
If we back up to last week's topic and we're talking about this lawsuit, all of a sudden, 405, I can multiply anything by 3.
Well,
it's going to go up $14,000.
yeah, I don't. Yeah, I mean, who knows? Because now you're not represented. I don't know if you're going to get this house for $450 or whatever.
Yeah.
You might be paying, and then you're going to. If you do, you might be trying to add in the real estate fees on top of that, on top of your down payment. There could be, yes, it could be a mess versus just the way it is that we do it now.
But that's a whole other argument on the complexities of the actual deal. But just doing straight math, it'd be 65 to
minus,
to 8.
minus a little over $12,000 for the 3% of a 450. Yeah. So yeah, 13.5. But I don't see how the buyer's going to save that. I don't see how that's. I mean, because that's honestly the whole thing was about the seller trying to save it.
Right. And for anybody, just got me to think. Now that we're dealing with what would happen if this actually happened, if there was somebody that was able to do 10% down, the buyer broker commission isn't that big of a deal.
What do you mean?
If somebody was able to do the 10% down, they were prepared for that.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, the buyer broker thing became a deal, an element.
Yes.
They could reduce it to 5%, a 5% loan, and cover the broker fee.
Yes. Yes.
I'm just saying they'd have enough ready funds.
Yes. Yeah, they could, yes, they could, instead of putting it towards their mortgage, they could pay that fee.
But you show me, but you show me, and I'll shut up. You show me a person that's stretching to get 5 or has to do 3.5. That's all of a sudden unlikely.
What are you doing now? Rolling it into the sales price, and then asking the seller to pay for it. I mean,
that'd be the first place I'd try to go. But then all of a sudden, you'd have to have these agreements with, if I was the seller, if you roll that in and it doesn't appraise and the buyer gets to back out because of it, that's really risking the seller, isn't it?
I mean, but I don't know. I mean, if it doesn't close, it doesn't close. They say like we do it now.
This could be a huge, big thing that never does anything. But for right now, it's a big thing,
Right.
So that moves us off into how do you feel about it's according to what I'm reading, adjustable rate mortgage demand jumped 10%. I've been saying that's going to happen for months. Not a big fan. I had one, hated what it did later. I'm not a fan.
I've actually had one, and I think it decreased the whole time I had it until I got rid of it. It was a very good product when I had it. And it's up. It says it's up 10% right now, and that's one of the things that makes me think, wow, how can it be up 10%? And I'll explain that. But there's enough of people asking about it, and there's enough of them around to do that increase. But with the applications so down, a 10% adjustment probably isn't very big. And the reason I say that is because the Fannie Mae adjustments on arms, they just don't want them. Like almost every single arm product that's registered here that's causing that number is some kind of specialty product from a bank, somebody who's going to hold it, portfolio it, but it's not. They're not coming from Fannie and Freddie. Um,
Got it.
there is right now. There's not a very big spread in uh, the market to where the adjustable rate mortgages are coming back. It's like nobody wants them. Fannie Mae does. They've priced them out of the market to where, like, I can barely even offer you a rate on a 5-year arm, something like that. So they're just not very competitive right now. But the ones you are finding are pretty good, like the ones that the banks are promoting and things like that. So that's, to me, is why we see the uptick. One, it don't take much to uptick from 10%, from 0 to 10%. And then
Yeah.
two, it's a good, to me, it would be a really good time to get in an arm if Fannie Mae was putting them out to where there's a little bit more available to the public.
Right. Well, it seems to me, and I think we've been saying this all along, and then I've got one other point, and then we can probably close out for today. But because of the way things are with the rates and let's just call it the 7+, it's uncomfortable. Home prices, it's been proven now, they're still going up, but really slow. They're not, none of this skyrocket stuff. Sellers are negotiable. Buyers are pretty willing to walk away because they'll find a deal someplace else. There's none of that scarcity mentality. I mean, even though there's no homes out there, nobody feels rushed because you're not going to pressure people anymore. Not going to get pushed around.
Yeah. Well, it's just you probably, if rates were 3.5%, they'd be in such a fast pace to get going and get moving, but not at 7.5.
And so my point is there, and I've seen a lot in YouTube, on Facebook, a different, where a lot of these guys are talking about these different like buy downs, and you get a loan, we get an adjustable rate. Nobody's taking advantage of these. So, they're probably selling them, but
right.
But if you see enough of those ads, you're going to go, honey, what's an adjustable rate? Let's look into it, and they're going to catch some of the low hanging fruit with that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's just I wish we had a really good arm rate right now, but it's just Fannie just don't want them. I mean, and I can see why. They get them out right now. I can only assume that they're projecting rates to go down to where when they put that arm out there, they don't want them paying off within 6 months. 9
Right.
months. So, but the adjustable rate, I would definitely. I don't want to say I'm a fan of them, but I think they're they can be very advantageous for the right people at the right time.
Right. And one of the things that I've seen pretty consistently, I get mailers just like everybody else, these, and a lot of them are builders that are advertising, which tells you everything. If somebody is advertising, that means they're not doing enough business. If they're not advertising, we don't need you. That's what that means. But a lot of the stuff that I get now from some very prestigious companies, the first thing you'll see is the mortgage rate buy downs that these builders are offering. And I think that's the life of the loan, right?
A temporary, most of what I've seen are what's called temporary buy downs, which means it's usually 1% for 1 year.
Is it possible to get a buy down for the life of a loan?
Yeah, and what you're saying there when you call it a buy down is I call it you're paying some prepaid interest or buying points, however you want to look at it. And like right now, there's a lot of times I do not recommend paying points. However, there was a situation actually we worked on this morning that we felt like it was best if we bought the rate down for this customer and just kind of used some of the down payment and everything, just kind of tweaked the numbers to get her payment. She was very sensitive about where she wanted a payment. So we just kind of tweaked the numbers, used a little less down payment, and actually bought the rate down to get her where she wanted to be. So it worked out good for this client. It doesn't always work out, but you just look at the money and see if it makes sense for you to do that.
Yeah, see, there's a way around. And I think that my whole point on bringing up that topic is that with rates being like they are, they are going to get creative, because the need for people that have to buy a house, whether it's, I hate to say it, divorce, job change, whatever. Sure. If there's a house that needs to be bought, then people are going to look for ways to get that done, because rents are ridiculous, yes. And sometimes that's the only option you're left with, and it's sometimes not the best. But I'm just saying, people are going to be trying all kinds of things, and I'm going to keep my eye open. What's the next big thing,
They should. I mean, we should, just like adjustable rates, we're not going to use them very much, but we need to look into them every chance we can. Just kind of like the topic of that, the assumable mortgage, right? It's not going to be for everybody, but if it comes out where it fits you, it could be a very good deal. So,
and there's people betting millions on it. So that means that there's a lot of interest. Meaning companies. So that's it for me, Rodney. Do you have any additional thoughts? Any send-offs for us?
No. You good? Did you? Do we want to talk about the HOA any, or are you good there?
Nah, we'll save that for next week. Here's a little tip, a little tidbit for anybody that's watching now or watches later on. I got tagged with an extra close to $50 on my HOA fees, so I'm steamed. So we'll talk about that next week, and I'll tell you how I really feel.
Yes. Well, we won't have Santa hats on for this advertisement.
We'll go back to normal stuff. I'm gonna tell this, Rodney. I don't think Rodney was happy with me with introducing the Christmas theme this early.
No. I was fine with that. I was just teasing you. You always see the people in commercials where the guy's running all the Christmas stuff.
You mean this kind of stuff here?
No, the wife bringing out 15 boxes right after Halloween. So
no, that was fun, poking fun. Rodney, you're the best. Philip, Wendy, thank you. Angie, if you show up sometime afterwards, we care for you. Hope things are going well in California. There's an article that we're going to talk about next week, is why are people still leaving California in a big way. So I wanted to save that for next week. So Rodney, gotcha. I can't thank you enough. Have a good week.
I will, my man. See you next week.
Talk to you soon.
See ya.
Oops. Bye, everybody.